The December wind cut through Margaret's thin cream-colored dress as she sat at the bus stop, her worn backpack beside her. At 24, she looked older, weathered by months on the street after losing everything. Her blonde hair hung limp and her bare feet were numb against the cold pavement. She'd sold her last pair of shoes 3 days ago for food. Snow fell softly, blurring the evening lights into halos of gold and red. Margaret pulled her knees close, trying to preserve warmth. The bus shelter offered little protection. She watched other people hurry past, bundled in coats, rushing toward warm homes she could only imagine. A small figure appeared through the snowfall. A little girl, perhaps 4 years old, wore a burgundy dress under a gray knitted cap. She walked with the careful steps of a child, concentrating hard. In her mittened hands, she carried a paper bag. The girl stopped directly in front of Margaret, studying her with solemn brown eyes. "Are you cold?" the child asked, her voice clear in the winter stillness. Margaret tried to smile. "A little, sweetheart, but I'm okay." The girl looked down at Margaret's bare feet, then back at her face. Without a word, she extended the paper bag. "This is for you." Margaret's throat tightened. "Oh, honey, I can't take your food." "It's okay," the girl said simply. "Daddy bought me cookies, but you look hungry." Behind them, a man in a dark coat stood watching, snow gathering on his shoulders. He made no move to call the child back. Margaret accepted the bag with shaking hands. Inside were fresh cookies from a nearby bakery, still warm. The smell alone brought tears to her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. The little girl tilted her head, considering Margaret with a wisdom beyond her years. Then she said something that would change everything. "You need a home, and I need a mommy." The words hung in the snowy air between them. Margaret looked up at the child, stunned. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lucy," the girl said. "My mommy went to heaven. Daddy says she's an angel now." "Are you an angel?" "No, baby. I'm just someone who made some mistakes." Lucy reached out and touched Margaret's cheek with surprising gentleness. "Daddy says everyone makes mistakes. That's why we need love." The man finally approached. He was perhaps 40, with kind eyes that held deep sadness. He knelt beside his daughter. "I'm sorry," he said to Margaret. "Lucy has a way of finding people who need help. I'm Daniel Hayes." Margaret started to apologize, to explain she didn't want to bother them, but Daniel held up his hand. "My daughter's right," he said quietly. "You need shelter and we have an extra room. My wife passed 6 months ago. The house feels too empty." He paused. "I'm not making promises beyond tonight, but no one should be out here in this cold. If you'd like a warm meal and a safe place to sleep, the offer stands." Margaret had learned to be wary. The streets taught hard lessons about trust. But something in Daniel's eyes, in Lucy's innocent faith, felt genuine. "I don't want charity," she managed. "It's not charity," Daniel said. "It's humanity. Someone helped me once when I needed it. I'm just passing it forward." Lucy took Margaret's hand. "Please come home with us. It's Christmas soon, and Santa brings presents to people who have homes." Margaret looked at this little girl in her gray knitted cap, offering unconditional acceptance. At this father, extending kindness without judgment. Something broke open inside her chest, some frozen place she'd thought dead. "Okay," she whispered. "Just for tonight." But one night became several. Daniel offered Margaret the guest room, asked nothing in return except that she join them for meals. Lucy attached herself to Margaret immediately, showing her every toy, every book, every corner of their home. Margaret learned that Daniel was a teacher, that his wife had died in a car accident, that grief had made their house feel impossibly large. She learned that Lucy had nightmares and that Margaret's presence seemed to comfort her. In turn, Margaret shared her story. The job loss, the medical bills from her mother's final illness, the cascade of circumstances that had left her homeless. She'd never been an addict, never been in trouble. She'd just been unlucky and too proud to ask for help until it was too late. Daniel listened without judgment. "Life can break any of us," he said. What matters is whether someone's there to help us stand again. Over the following weeks, Margaret began to heal. Daniel helped her find work at a local library. Lucy insisted Margaret tuck her in each night, their bedtime ritual becoming sacred to both of them. One evening, 3 months later, Margaret found Daniel in the living room, looking at photos of his late wife. "She would have liked you," he said. Amanda always said kindness recognizes kindness. Margaret sat beside him. "Lucy offered me her cookies that night, but she gave me so much more. She gave me a reason to believe in goodness again." Daniel nodded. "She needed you too. Since you came, she started smiling again, really smiling." Lucy appeared in her nightgown, her gray cap still on her head. She wore it constantly now, like armor against the world. "Are you staying forever?" she asked Margaret directly. Margaret looked at Daniel, who nodded slightly. "If you'll have me," Margaret said, "I'd like that very much." Lucy climbed into her lap. "Good, because you're my mommy now. I told Santa, and he said it was okay." Margaret held this precious child, this family that had found her in the snow. She thought about that winter night, how close she'd come to giving up entirely, how one small act of kindness had lit a candle in her darkness. Daniel reached over, and the three of them sat together, a family formed not by blood but by compassion, by the simple human need to belong and be loved. Outside, snow fell gently, but inside, everything was warm. Sometimes angels do come to us in our darkest moments. Sometimes they wear gray-knitted caps and carry cookies. And sometimes, when we're brave enough to accept their gifts,